This is Westeros. This is an official map of Westeros, and this is South America, and this is the UK. And the reason I bring these two up is because when you try and figure out how big the Seven Kingdoms are, a lot of people either compare them to South America or some version of the United Kingdom, or they say it's England upside down or the UK inverted. I'm going to show you in this video that it's neither of those things. Then we're going to determine the exact length, not necessarily like the square mileage, but the length from the wall to Dorne. And the reason I say that and not, so it's the Seven Kingdoms and not Westeros, is because the Westeros as a continent also takes into account everything north of the wall, and that's not really mapped, and we don't know specifically how big it is. So we're just looking from the wall down to Dorne. We're going to get that exact measurement. We're going to dispel the South America myth, the UK myth, and also the Yoren myth, which is the one where he says it's 1,000 leagues from here to the wall and winter is coming. So at that point, he is down in King's Landing and he's headed to the wall. He says that that's 1,000 leagues. 1,000 leagues is 3,000 miles. The Seven Kingdoms from King's Landing to the wall is not 3,000 miles, and I'm going to break it all down. So let's start with the wall, because that's what we need. We need a particular known measurement, and the wall is 300 miles. So we're going to use that, and we're going to copy and paste it enough times to get from the wall to Dorne. So we'll do that now. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and a little bit more. So 8 versions of the wall at 300 miles apiece would be 2,400 miles. So it's like 2,600 miles roughly. All these things are going to be rough approximations. So if we want to compare that to the real world, it can be said that roughly Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles is comparable, especially because you're going to have a few, it's not going to be exact measurement when we're just doing this with a map. By the way, we do not take into account the curvature of the earth in regards to Westeros, okay? I don't know how to do that. If somebody else knows how to do that, put that in the comments. Another thing I want to address is there is a time when George R.R. Martin did specifically say that you could not use the wall to scale the map. Basically, it's become accepted within the fandom that you can, because he just used it as a catch-all because he didn't write these stories with geography in mind. And people have gone through the books, and they've really seen very few plot holes in the books if you consider that the wall is to scale and it is 300 miles long. So the shows get a lot different. It gets a little wonky, especially towards the end. But we don't take into account the curvature, and we do use the wall as a scale. So we know that roughly north to south, the wall to Dorne is approximately Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles. So that gives you some sort of comparability. The next thing we're going to look at is the South America myth. Now, again, George R.R. Martin said that Westeros is comparable to South America. But Westeros is the continent. So that includes everything north of the wall, of which there's a lot. He said that north of the wall is the size of Canada. So if you took a country the size of Canada and put it on top of Westeros, on top of the Seven Kingdoms, that would be Westeros. So I'm going to use some comparable measurements to try to figure out how Westeros actually compares to South America. So what I did was I found an area of South America, and this is Rio de Janeiro to Campinas, I'm not really sure. And that is about 310 miles. So roughly the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a screenshot of this, and then we're going to overlay Westeros on top of it. So we've got that here. And this is the same map. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece here. That is the that is the wall highlighted here, and we are going to try to match that up here. So what we're going to do is drop the opacity down so you can see it. Oh, a little too much. Let's zoom in, and we're going to try and line that up roughly. Probably needs to Be a little bit smaller. Now I know this is rough. I'm not exactly, we're not trying to be, these aren't precise coordinates, but I don't think it needs to be that precise when you see it all in the end. All right, so now we've got that to scale, right? We're going to pull this over, and then we're going to remove the frame. There's a little Photoshop magic here. We got to make sure that we get all of the land mass up to the wall. And then we're going to delete the rest. So this is what we're left with. This is the Seven Kingdoms. And it's smaller than Westeros. I mean, it's not much smaller, but it's definitely smaller. So that's the comparison to the Seven Kingdoms to South America. You can see it's definitely smaller than that. Next up, we're going to do the UK. So the UK, actually, let's go over here. I'm going to go on right on Google Maps, pull that over. The UK, I found from past London. What is this? This is Southend-on-the-Sea. Can we see it labeled here? Southend-on-the-Sea, which is funny because it's like you can see that George clearly took, Eastwatch by the Sea, A Shy by the Shadow, where these are inspired. But Fishguard to Southend-on-the-Sea is 310 miles. So when we take a screenshot of that and we overlay the Seven Kingdoms and we try and line it up, and I think I've got this already somewhat scaled up. And again, it's rough. It's certainly rough, but this is the rough approximation that we're going to do. You can see how much bigger, like so much bigger it is than the UK. So where this comes from is that George has said that the map, the literal coastline, is based on Ireland upside down. So here we have the UK, and we're looking specifically at this part of Ireland. So we're going to take that. That's the wrong tool. We're going to take that and copy it so that we've got a copy of Ireland. And then we're going to flip that upside down. And that is basically the Vale. So you can see how well that fits. So this is Ireland inverted. Ireland upside down is how he got. This is the Vale. This is the Fingers. This is where this area here is where Littlefinger is from. This is called the Fingers. This is the Vale of Arryn. Let me go back here. So if we zoom in here, you can see. So the Erie is here. This is the Vale of Arryn, and this is the Finger area. That this is Ireland upside down. So we've got that. So much. It's smaller than South America. It's bigger than the whole United Kingdom, much bigger than Ireland. But the Ireland upside down myth, that's where that comes from. Now let's tackle the Yoren myth, because in the show, at the end of season 1, Yoren is in King's Landing. Ned has been executed. He's taken Arya, and he's going to smuggle her, hopefully back to Winterfell. We know that doesn't work out. But he is taking her north with the group of men who are supposed to join the Night's Watch. There's people from the dungeons. Jack and Hagar is in there. So they're going to go north to the wall. He says this is 1,000 leagues. A league equals 3 miles. So that would be 3,000 miles from King's Landing to the wall. We already know that if we measured the whole thing, it's less than 3,000 miles from the wall all the way down to Dorne. So we know that that's not right. But, I don't know. Which source are you going to believe? I would not believe the show, because this is not in the books. But what you can do is you can go to a search of fireandice.com, and it will let you search whatever term, whatever phrase you want, and it'll search across all the books and give you all the times that phrase is uttered. So we do see a few times here. This is in Game of Thrones, and it says that everyone that might know the truth about what happened to Jon Arryn is 1,000 leagues away. So this is Ned talking about Lysa has fled. He's trying to figure out who killed Jon Arryn, and he's 1,000 leagues away. So he's talking about Lysa Arryn, who has fled to the Eyrie. He's in King's Landing. So he's referring to King's Landing and the Eyrie being 1,000 leagues apart. This being 3,000 miles, like not even close. It's basically an expression. They're basically saying, like, if you were to say something was 1,000,000 miles away, it's nothing is actually 1,000 leagues away, at least in terms of the reference that like George makes throughout this. Even here it says, Lady Stark Maya called Maya is only in the books, and she's a bastard daughter of King Robert, who is in the Eyrie. The girl sounded 1,000 leagues away, so that's obviously not a measurement, but it just shows that it's an expression. Here is Cersei talking to Ned, and it says, your wife is 1,000 leagues away, and my brother has fled. This is when they're like in that, where Ned confronts her and tells her that she's got to get out of town, and she like calls his bluff. But they're in King's Landing, and I'm not sure that Cersei knows exactly where Cat would be at this time. Like maybe she thinks she's still in the Eyrie, so that again would be 1,000 leagues or 3,000 miles away. Maybe she thinks that she's gone to River Run, so King's Landing to River Run. Would that be 1,000 miles? Maybe she thinks 1,000 leagues. Maybe she thinks she's all the way back in Winterfell. Would that be 1,000 leagues? Like none of that would be even close to 1,000 leagues. So again, it's just an expression that they're using. We'll do one more. This is Bran, and he says, but Lord Eddard, he's thinking, but Lord Eddard was 1,000 leagues away, captive in some dungeon. He's in Winterfell. So he would also refer to Winterfell to King's Landing as 1,000 leagues. So Yoren says it's 1,000 leagues to the wall. Bran says it's 1,000 leagues between Winterfell and King's Landing. Ned says it's 1,000 leagues to the Eyrie. So obviously 1,000 leagues is just an expression. So those are the three myths debunked. And that's it for this video. If you like stuff like this, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. I've got at least one other video up right now. So if you want to take a look at that, you can watch that. Yeah, and throw me a like and come back for more. Thanks.